everyone, and welcome to the 17th, I think it's the 17th episode of Health by Design. And today we have a special interview with the one and only Christine, or even known as Coach C. She's been a master coach and sales coach for the last, how many years? 20?
25.
20, oh wow, 25 years you've been coaching. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
Yeah. So normally people start off interviews by asking you to tell your story and what you do. But I want to start off this interview by asking you, what are your three great accomplishments, both in personal and business life?
Sure. So you mentioned that I'm a master coach, and I also do breakthrough sales coaching. I've been consulting businesses and using a coach-based approach to consulting for over 25 years. And I think one of my greatest accomplishments was when I was about 21 years old. I was in the pharmaceutical industry, and I was one of the top reps in the industry selling cardiovascular products and diabetes products to patients, well, to doctors to give to their patients, and really helping that community. Early on, I really knew that my life was about making a difference, and I valued that above everything. As I'm sitting in my chair in the pharmaceutical industry, they'd hired this transformational coach, and nobody knew what that was. Everybody was really worried about it. They were very skeptical. They kept saying things like, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid." And, you have to remember, back then, it was different, and we were changing paradigms. I remember sitting in my seat, having landed this dream job of being in the pharmaceutical industry, 6-figure salary, great bonus, car, all the perks that I could possibly want, and not feeling fully satisfied, not feeling that this was quite it. And when I listened to that transformational coach, I went, this isn't my chair, that's my seat. And I followed that all the way through, and I asked that coach, what do I need to do to become you? And I remember, it went against what my family said. It was challenging because people thought I was too young, and they also thought I was crazy. So that began my entrepreneurial journey. So that's one of the first parts that I am so proud of, that I didn't, do what was the expected norm of me, and I didn't just adhere to other people's expectations. You asked for 3. Do you want the other 2, or do you want to say anything about that one?
So you basically are proud of yourself for taking the leap of faith, basically, to take a chance on yourself and your own life.
Yeah, I am.
That's good.
Sorry?
That's awesome.
The other 2 accomplishments, I would say, obviously I have 3 children. I'm a mom, 17, 15, and 7. And I am proud of all of them, and I am grateful beyond words that I have been blessed to have the family that I have. And has it been easy? No. Has it been a windy, challenging, interesting life full of roller coaster rides and upside down and inside out, and 100%, but I wouldn't change any of that. I am really beyond grateful. I don't know if proud is the word. I am proud of myself for probably breaking through any misperceptions about who I thought I was, and am I capable of raising children? Because I had a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-criticism, a lot of questioning. I didn't come from, your very traditional background. I came from a very rocky start. I had a lot of people in my life that loved me, but there was a lot of challenges. And so the decision to become a mom wasn't one that I took lightly. And being able to balance an incredible career, be an entrepreneur, work with high-level senior executives all over the world, work with entrepreneurs all over the world, and raise a family it's not an easy task, and it's a day-by-day phenomenon. And so there are days where they're really, really high, and there are days where it's really, really low. So I think that's the second piece, is that, being able to be that mom and really be there for my kids, but also have a career that I love without suffering or sacrifice. And there's lots of days where it's like, this sucks, but there's also lots of days where this is amazing, and I'm so grateful. So it's number 2. And then I think the number 3 is that I'm still a work in progress. One of my very first coaches said, "You're not a cupcake, you're not baked." The journey is And so I always strive every day to learn a new thing, to challenge myself, to challenge my own belief system, what's possible, what's not possible, to make sure that I'm taking care of my, my mental health, my emotional being, and my physical body while running an international consulting company and having 3 kids.
Yeah. You had to put the having 3 kids as well in there at last. So that's really cool to hear. So you've had difficulties in the beginning of your life. Are you open to talk a little bit about that? How that's helped you form your psychological health, because that's also a massive part of health. Have you had any challenges from your childhood?
Oh, of course. I think most of us do. Actually, I think most successful people who had a rocky childhood probably became very resilient adults. And I firmly believe that. And one of my coaches, Mike Slade, said that. I know our other coach, JT Foxx, he also had a rocky childhood. So, my parents, one, I was born with red hair, and back then it wasn't cool to have red hair. 2, my parents were married young and divorced young. So I had divorced parents, red hair. And then there was a lot of turmoil inside of that life. As my parents got married young, they also were raising a child young. So there was a lot of interesting and challenging times. And we don't need to go into the gory details. Let's just say it was, it was tough. It was really tough. And by the time I was 11, I lived with my mom in Toronto, Canada for several years, and she had her own issues and challenges that she needed to face. So I went and lived with my dad. And then at that point, my stepmom had a baby. She was a new stepmom. She was young. And she gave my dad an ultimatum: either her and the new baby go or I go. And I think it was probably one of the biggest breaks in my life, where I fundamentally thought, if my own father doesn't love me, then I must not be worth very much. And I share that story because it's a story, because that wasn't necessarily true. And as I went through, those times actually made me very resilient, because I created this persona, or this new winning strategy of, I'll show you. I will be somebody. I will matter. My life does matter. So I was raised by my grandparents from the time that I was 11 until university. Now, I'm the first person in my family to graduate from university. I had a 6-figure job coming out of university. I didn't have debt. I worked my way through university. I paid for my own school. And I really am proud of the woman that I had become, despite that rocky start, and despite that conversation, that story of, I'm not worthy enough for even my own family to love me. Because in reality, they did. And when I got to a point when I was 21 and I actually got that first coach, one of the things that he said to me is, if you don't get this story complete with your dad, you're always going to be pushing yourself and striving for more, and you're going to feel that emptiness inside, because that's what it felt like. The more I accomplished, the more I achieved, the emptier I felt, because it was all on top of this story that I told myself that I wasn't good enough. And so I remember that day, he said, get in your car and go talk to your dad. So I drove down to Kingston, and I'm sitting at my dad's table, and I remember the conversation like it was yesterday. Because I said, Dad, do you remember when you left me? And he looked and he goes, I never left you. He goes, I was messing life up so badly for all of us. I needed to do what was going to be the best thing for you. And I had your grandparents raise you, because I sucked at it. And I went, wow. In that moment, the conversation shifted from, I'm not lovable, to, I'm loved so much he didn't hold on to me like a trophy. He let me go. I think that takes more courage. I share that with you because for 20 years, I had the opportunity to have a relationship with my dad that was not based on, he doesn't love me, I needed to prove myself to him, I needed to prove that I was lovable, and prove, push, all that stuff. I no longer had to have that persona. It didn't run the show. It wasn't fun being in relationships with me as a person who constantly had to prove themselves, you were always up against, do you love me enough? Am I good enough for you? And I was always testing anybody that was in a relationship with me. I was always testing that because I didn't love me enough and I didn't believe. And so, having had that completion with my dad and really getting free from that story, because it wasn't true. I had made that up, and circumstances happened. Those circumstances didn't have to shape the rest of my life. And my dad died at a very young age. He was 61. He died of skin cancer. And, there was only two things. He came out of a coma when I got to his bedside, and he had been in a coma. He'd slipped in really fast. And he came out and he said, his last two words were, "I love you and I'm proud of you," 4 words. And that's all that you ever want to hear as a child. That's all you ever want to hear from your parents. I love you and I'm proud of you. The rest of it is just noise. And so hopefully I've taken a page out of that book and that learning, and that when I'm with my own children, I really remind myself the only thing that matters is that they know I'm proud of them and that I love them.
Yeah, that's I'm happy for you for getting that realization, that getting the true story right, for your own sake, because it's really easy to go around and come up with or create your own reality, so to speak. Okay. And that can mess with your well-being and your own thoughts a lot, because you were trying to prove to everyone, and basically him, that, well, it's your fault. I'm good enough. You just wait and see. I'll prove to you that I'm good enough. Mm-hmm. So getting the story straight and actually realizing what's true and not is key to becoming basically fulfilled and understand what's really true or not for your own sake. Yes.
Well, I think, and the key to that, as an executive coach and a business coach, a coach in neuroscience as well, 56% of the memories that we have are not true. We rewrite them based on our perception in the moment, and our perceptions shape our reality. And if your reality is shaped by a perception that is not accurate, it's not true, then you live a story instead of living free. And I think we all have them. Nobody escapes the meaning-making machine of human being. We're all meaning-making machines. We add judgment, assessment, and meaning to absolutely everything we do in life. And without examining that, it really does wreak havoc on, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your emotional state, your happiness. So it's really, really probably the most fundamental part of anything is to examine what perception is shaping your reality, and is it true? And I say actually 90% of the time it's not true. We added that meaning, and there's probably another more empowering meaning that we can add that will be equally as true, because you made it up anyway.
Yeah. So thanks to your coach, you took that step and went to your dad. And on the subject of coaching, when did you first get to know of JT?
So I had been coaching and leading programs for many, many years. I did a lot of work internally. I've had my own businesses and my own company, and then I did a lot of work in 2 large international consulting firms. And after our 3rd child, I was an entrepreneur, and I was a partner, a senior level partner in an international company. And I sold my shares back to my senior partners, and I left. And I said, I'm retiring. I'm going to have our 3rd child. And I really I wanted to be able to raise my family and not be getting on an airplane and not be worrying about what the clients were doing. And so I kept a few coaching clients throughout that period of time, but I was not open for business. And in late 2015, my phone rang, and it was a client from Abu Dhabi. And he said, I'm at a crossroads in my life, and I needed to talk to my coach. And I'm like, we haven't spoken in 7 years, and you still consider me your coach? And he's like, yes, I hear your voice in my head every day. You're my coach. So that was the beginning of my entree back in. And I spent the next year organically, I changed my LinkedIn profile. I had several clients, just coaching clients. And I spent 2016 very organically growing the business. Didn't have a brand, didn't have a business card, I didn't have a website. I had nothing other than my LinkedIn profile. And I knew at some point, if I was going to do this, I was going to do it in a new way that I had not yet done. So it was really a reinvention. And I knew that there were things about marketing, branding, business that I hadn't done yet. And I needed a coach to make sure that I could figure that out. And JT happened to put a pink ad on Facebook. And I'm like, what do you mean the world needs more female speakers? I didn't know there was a shortage of us. So I answered the ad, and on January the 30th of 2017, I met JT and I signed up. I went all in, and he became my coach, and he has been my coach since that point. Within a very short period of time, my business expanded tenfold. You know, there was a 40% expansion in revenue within 6 weeks, which was incredible. I had a brand, I had a website, I understood about, you know, online marketing and what I needed to do from a social media perspective, and all of the things that I hadn't had to worry about when I left industry prior to having my third child.
So he basically changed your life within a really short period of time.
Yes.
That's great, and he really has that. How close are you to JT? Because he has clients all over the world, and you've been on the stage multiple times all over the world, and especially the Mega Success stage. So obviously a lot have happened to his life and his business since you first came in. But have you had a game-changing, not experience, but moment that he has helped you realize?
Yeah, I mean,
within your own life.
There was a hidden thing that I had always wanted to do, which was speaking on large stages. And when I was always afraid to tell anyone that's what I really wanted. I was used to speaking in corporate. I was used to speaking to 400 or 500 people at a time, but thousands was never on my radar. And when he coached me about that, it really became a possibility. So that was the opening for me to step onto large stages where thousands and thousands of people. Last year it was 10,000 and 8,000 and 3,000, and really be able to speak in front of large people and not tremble every time I got on stage. So that was definitely an impactful, just even having the courage to say that's what I wanted. Because a lot of people suffer from articulating what they want, because what happens if you get it? You know,
yeah.
if you actually get that. And then the other part is I've been, you know, JT, you know, throughout the period of time where his CEO betrayed him, his ex-CEO betrayed him, and now he has an extraordinary CEO in Francie Baldwin. But when that happened, I was really there to help distinguish some of those things. And he's someone that he has asked from me to coach some of his clients now. So as far as the evolution goes, he is my coach, and I still get coaching from Golden Circle and from JT, but he trusts me enough to be able to coach his clients as well. So that says a lot, and I don't take that lightly. I don't take that relationship, that friendship, or the trust that he puts in me, because as you know, he really takes very seriously the work ethic and how we work with clients and how he works with clients and the coaching that he gives. He's not satisfied if he feels he hasn't coached someone powerfully and well. So for him to trust me with his clients and his brand is very remarkable, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, that says a lot about you as well as a coach and as a person. That because he has clients all over the world, but to trust you with a lot of it as well, and his brand, it says a lot about you and how great you are as well. So a lot of you don't only teach people in sales, but you also have the ability to build great teams. And how basically the question I have is, how do you put together a team and simultaneously have a healthy relationship with everyone within the team? Because that's it's something that a lot of people don't really know a lot about. When it comes to leading, a lot of people look up to Steve Jobs, which he has an interesting leading technique where basically you either do it or you're out. So
Yeah.
a lot of fear. So do you have a philosophy around that?
So there's several questions that you asked in there. So
Yeah.
I'll back the first two. Number one, when you're putting a team together, you want to look for people who actually their personality or their what drives them from a purpose perspective fits their job description. And so you can't have a team of all people who are gregarious and outgoing and really visionary and not have anybody behind them helping to get those visions implemented and executed. It takes all kinds of personalities to create a powerful team. And we use a three-legged approach. We often use our colleague in South Africa, Robin Booth. In contrast, he'll help us put together the dynamics of the team based on what does their personality say they're really great at doing, and how will they fit, how will they match. So they don't have to like each other. That's number one. Teams don't necessarily have to like each other. Often, actually, if you look at a sports team, for instance, that has a lot of alpha, really, really great athletes on it, they're not necessarily as effective as if they have one or two alpha athletes and really great athletes, and then a really awesome, deep supporting bench that knows their role. So too many stars make a mess. Too many profiles that don't have the vision don't get things off the ground. So you really need to have that balance and that match. And you don't have to like each other. What you do need is alignment. And alignment comes from everybody knows their own individual purpose and they're aligned with the vision of where the company is going. And the CEO sets that tone, regardless of what culture it is, whatever company you're working in. And the interesting thing about Steve Jobs is he's actually a really shitty manager. Sorry, he was a crappy manager. He's an extraordinary visionary leader. But there's a lot of things about his style that he needed to grow into because his personality didn't naturally match that. And he really transformed who he was being in the period of his life. You know, the beginning days of his leadership and the end days of his leadership were very, very different styles. And you look at Jack Welch, you can look at a lot of different leaders and a lot of different leadership styles. And hopefully they've also evolved and they've changed through time. So that's very important. Are you adapting? You know, right now during this COVID time, people need to adapt and reset and reinvent their leadership style because we don't know how to lead in a time of chaos, in a time of where people are quarantined. And there's a lot of challenges that people are facing that you as a leader might not necessarily had thought about having to deal with, you know? So those are all things, and command and control definitely doesn't work in that situation. But if you don't have a decision and you're not willing to take the helm and make it a tough decision, your business might fail. So there's a lot of nuances in leadership. And that's what I work with our clients on when we're coaching and consulting to clients. It's that leadership challenges that they're faced with. The other piece that you asked me, so I think I answered the team question and how to build powerful teams. The other thing you asked me about was about leadership. And I think I also just answered that as well. So really adapting your leadership style and understanding that you don't want to hire people or put people around you that are the same as you. Actually, you want people who are the opposite of you. Hopefully you like them, but you don't have to. You just need to align on where you're going and what's the vision.
Yeah, that's a great advice, which I have never really thought about, that you just have to basically have the same goal and be aligned with each other. You don't have to like each other necessarily, but be aligned and have the same goal as everyone in the team need to have. But I have one last final question.
It helps.
Yeah. I have one last final question for you, and it has to do about happiness. It's something I bring up on every interview. And do you have happiness?
Yes. Happiness is an inside job. The only one that can make me happy is me. So regardless of any outside circumstance, regardless of, you know, really bad circumstances have happened in my life and some things that I was expecting, or deals going sideways, or not getting what you wanted, or challenging financial times, whatever it is, those aren't the things that give you happiness. Happiness comes from understanding who are you, what is your purpose, and are you fulfilling on that on a daily basis, regardless of the external circumstances. Even during COVID, I have days where I'm not as happy as I normally am, but I'm still really happy. And I'm happy from the inside out, not the other way around. So many people are looking for external sources to make them happy. It's not an external phenomenon, it's an internal purview.
Yeah, and that's it can't be you can't go further from the truth than that. And it's been great to have you on, Christine, and thank you for basically getting on my show. So if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Coach C Official. You can find me on LinkedIn at Christine Nielsen, and it's spelled the Danish way. I did marry a Canadian Dane, Nielsen. You can also find me on Facebook and YouTube.
Yes.
You have to look me up on my business page, which is contrastresultsgroup.com.
Yes, and I will leave it in the description as well, so you can just click there if you want to meet or talk to Christine. So thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
So everyone, have a great day.
Thanks, Teo.